Week in, week out, we have a number of stories that we cover as Diamond TV. And we do know that some of you cannot manage to watch those stories every day. This is why News in a Week is here for you. I'm Francesca Phiri-Banda. Traders in the informal sector called for insurance companies to intensify the sensitization campaigns. Zambia National Credit Marketeers says the sector's growth needs corresponding empowerment for continued viability. Mupila Kamea says that government has to bring on board stakeholders that will invest in the informal sector.
Like my insurance companies, like police and home sectors, I think some of them. It depends even in the business yet now. How much are we going to be paying the insurance company? Empowerment. So empowerment in the first kankara empowered. The insurance.
Zambia's business environment is largely dominated by the informal sector, which accounts for over 6 million active traders. Lack of structure has denied this sector the much-needed growth that could contribute significantly to the national economy. Challenges that beset the informal sector include lack of capital and production inputs. To capitalize on demographic dividends, concerted efforts to formalize trade in the informal sector have been made by both government and other relevant stakeholders. The Zambia Revenue Authority has partnered with the Zambia National Marketeers Credit Association to enhance revenue collection in the informal sector.
As tax agents, we shall appoint them as tax agents to work on a commission, okay, based on their collections. And we will divide the country in small zones, okay, to be managed by private companies who will be appointed by ZRA as tax agents. So, for example, if you are giving an example of townships where people are doing business, we'll give, say, Mr. Costa to be in charge of Chilenje. Okay? As a tax agent, your responsibility will be to collect data on who is doing business in Chilenje, how much their turnover is. Okay? And then we are targeting 4 taxes. The best tax, which is basically the tax that marketeers pay. Okay? On the best tax, we are working with market associations. The process and the discussions have already been done. We are targeting the turnover tax, which is for the small businesses that you are talking about, street vendors, people operating in townships and so on, whose annual turnover is below 800,000. Okay? We are targeting presumptive tax, which is a tax on minibuses and taxis. Again, we shall have specific private tax agents to manage that sector at a smaller scale.
Zambia Marketeers Credit Association is one of such notable organizations that is championing the crusade of formalizing trade in the informal sector. Association President Mupila Kamea says the association is working with the strategic partners to make the informal sector a significant contributor to the national treasury.
We've also brought on board recently, because of the economic empowerment that we are looking at, where we brought in Zambia Revenue Authority. For a long time, the people in the informal sector in this country have never contributed in terms of base and presumptive tax. I'm sure many are the times that our government is borrowing money from other countries. These are taxpayers' money, monies that are coming in our country to develop our country. So we felt as a marker that we can contribute to ensure that we sensitize the people in the informal sector.
Apart from formalization, benefits of belonging to the association include access to credit, infrastructure development of markets, and socio-economic empowerment for traders.
In the words of Mahatma Gandhi, it is not what the government does for you that makes a difference. It is what you're willing to do for yourself. For Vision 2030 to be achieved, which strives to see Zambia as a prosperous middle income, there is need to invest in the informal sector. There is need to empower traders that constitute the largest part of Zambia's economic landscape. Diamond TV News, Wenson Mahor.
After being expelled from the Patriotic Front a few weeks ago, bad luck seems to have followed Ron Member of Parliament Chishimba Kambwili. Kambwili was on 21st of August dragged to the fast-track court at Lusaka Civic Center and accused of a charge of motor vehicle bearing a false registration mark, namely a Jaguar CK 900, contrary to the Road Traffic Act, among other offences. He was alleged to have committed the offences on August 13th. Mr. Kambwili pleaded not guilty to 3 counts of road traffic offences. The matter does come up on 21st of September for commencement of trial.
There were no seats left to sit on in the fast-track court at the Lusaka City Council. In the dock was Ron Member of Parliament Chishimba Kambwili, who was appearing after he was visited by the long arm of the law on 3 counts of traffic offences. In count 1, Kambwili is facing allegations of being in charge of a motor vehicle bearing a false registration mark, namely a Jaguar CK 900, contrary to the Road Traffic Act. In count 2, he is charged with permitting a Chileshe to drive a Jaguar without a driver's license along Didan Kimati Road. In the last count, the parliamentarian is charged with failure to display a certificate of insurance disc of the same vehicle, contrary to the Road Traffic Act. Kambwili, who appeared before Lusaka Magistrate Brands Machela, sitting in the fast-track court, denied all 3 counts. The accused is being represented by Keith Mwemba and Christopher Mundia. Gwendolyn Muchenga, Diamond News.
It's breakfast time. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. We've all heard the cliche. Fortunately for you, that is a yummy fact. Set the tone for the day. Choose to feed your mind, body, and soul with the healthiest of breakfast right here on Diamond TV. Join me, Chacha, and the Diamond Squad every weekday from 06:30 to 8 a.m. as we cater to your breakfast needs.
Now imagine a breakfast that you can visualize. The best of news, the latest of entertainment, the best of sports, current affairs packaged in 2 hours of great entertainment every day.
Serving you with information, keeping you nourished with knowledge on issues that matter to you.
About 6 days after President Edgar Lungu announced that the new policy on HIV is testing, counseling and treatment, Health Minister Dr. Chitalu Chilufya has continued to be in the media clarifying or reaffirming government's position. Now, Dr. Chilufya says that government's stance on HIV testing has not changed following conflicting media reports. He says government will be conducting routine tests on patients who go to health facilities to seek medical attention as a required standard. Dr. Chilufya says government is concerned with the rise in numbers of HIV and AIDS cases and has therefore called on the media to work with the ministry in reporting factual stories that actually protect lives. But Phiri-Banda, a 28-year-old Lusaka resident who's been living with HIV and AIDS and he's actually on ART treatment for the last 13 years, says that people must handle the whole issue of HIV and AIDS with care as it is a very sensitive matter.
Zambia recorded the first HIV case in 1988, and by 1991, the Zambia National AIDS Program had recorded 15,000 cases, which accounted for 14% of the total deaths. According to the National HIV/AIDS STI/TB Council, in 1988, the estimated adult prevalence rate between the ages of 15 to 49 years was 90%, while approximately 90,000 had died of AIDS. HIV and AIDS now became the greatest threat to development in Zambia, which eroded macroeconomic growth, human capital development, and growth in the labor productivity. Government since then has made efforts to mitigate the situation, and earlier this month made the pronouncement that HIV and AIDS testing must be mandatory. Minister of Health Chitalu Chilufya says government's stance on HIV/AIDS testing has not changed following media reports. He says the testing will be done routinely when one goes to seek medical attention at a health facility.
That other sections of the media would like to now say that government has backtracked on this policy. I want to emphasize government remains consistent. The presidential pronouncement that Zambia has adopted the universal routine HIV testing, counseling and treatment remains consistent. And this simply means that we will be able to do HIV test as a routine test in our facilities. We're demystifying HIV/AIDS, and we'll do HIV test as a routine test when you are unwell.
Phiri-Banda, 28, a Lusaka resident who discovered he was HIV positive in 2004, says government should have consulted before making HIV testing mandatory.
When you look at HIV and preventing new infections, we have to ask ourselves, and also just people getting to test and why they're afraid to test. Like, making it mandatory does not mean that each and every person will definitely test. No. It would probably mean that there will be more people that will actually not go to the clinic, and for that same reason. And then I think we are not, it's one of the ways that we can deal with it, but I think there are better ways of dealing with it. I think as much as we want to get people to test, but it's about doing it the right way.
Oswald Chisenga, 29, who is also HIV positive, says living positively is not a death sentence.
Actually, it's not a killer disease. You can manage HIV. You can control HIV. You can live with HIV. Once the point that you know that you are HIV positive, you start to live healthy and with more caution because you know that you are positive.
HIV and AIDS is one of the greatest threats to development in Zambia, which has eroded macroeconomic growth, human capital and growth in the labor productivity. Making it mandatory to test is just the tip of the iceberg in combating the pandemic. Nathaniel Loa, Dama News.
PF Secretary General Davis Mwila's lawyer, Eric Silwamba, on Tuesday asked the Lusaka High Court to set aside Ron Member of Parliament Chishimba Kambwili's originating summons in a matter in which he is challenging his expulsion from the party. Mr. Silwamba wants the summons to be set aside because the purported writ of summons is not duly endorsed with his full address, which is his physical address, post and electronic address in terms of the amended High Court rules. Mr. Kambwili, who is also the former Information and Broadcasting Minister, was expelled from the Patriotic Front by the party's Central Committee, and he later sued the party's secretary, Mr. Mwila, and asked the court to declare his expulsion null and void.
Efforts by PF Ron Member of Parliament Chishimba Kambwili to challenge his expulsion from the party seems not to be on his side. This is because PF Secretary General Davis Mwila's lawyer, Eric Silwamba, wants the court to set aside Mr. Kambwili's originating summons because the purported writ of summons is not duly endorsed with his full address, which is the physical address, postal and electronic address, in terms of the amended High Court rules. In his affidavit in support of summons to set aside originating process, pursuant to the provisions of Order 7, Rule 1 of the High Court rules, Mr. Silwamba has contended that the writ of summons is irregular as the plaintiff has not added the name of the firm and place of business and electronic mail address. Mr. Silwamba has further contended that this is a proper case for the court to set aside originating process for its irregularities. He has added that no prejudice will be occasioned to the plaintiff and conversely the interest of justice shall be served. In this matter, Mr. Kambwili, who is challenging his expulsion from the PF party, wants the court to declare his expulsion null and void. Mr. Kambwili also wants a declaration order that his rights under the party's constitution were infringed by not giving him a chance to face his charges. He asked for an order that the PF's committee could not be the complainant or the accuser and judge in its own case against him. Mr. Kambwili submitted that there was no agenda item dealing with his disciplinary hearing, adding that the full Central Committee meeting decided to expel him without following the provisions of the party's constitution and disciplinary procedure. Gwendolyn Muchenga, Diamond News.
This Sunday on Coaster.
You're known for too many sayings. Where did this all come from? Is it your style? Where do you get all these sayings?
For example, get better. Will that not? Get better, not bitter, Costas. And please remember to keep the African hopes alive.
This Sunday on Coaster.
Minister of Water and Development Environmental Protection, Lloyd Kazia, has launched the Mississippi Water Improvement Project to improve water supply in Mississippi compound. Now, Mr. Kazia has also urged Mississippi residents to take proper care of the newly built infrastructure and avoid vandalism.
Mississippi compound is a high densely populated area in Lusaka City with a population estimated at 80,000 people. The area lacks proper water supply and sanitation, which poses a health hazard to the residents. Access to clean water and adequate sanitation are critical in tackling factors related to child mortality in the area. Mississippi residents had to walk long distances to fetch what most call the source of life, which is water. The residents are happy with the newly launched improved water project under the Lusaka Water and Storage Company at a cost of 2 million kwacha. Joyce Phiri explains the challenges the community faces. Other residents have called on the local authorities to barricade the Ngwenya Dam.
Vantu vapairana kutali pena ngoza mpaira kwa kanyama azapo mtaira mungwe pena ngoza paira kuti vazapo mtaira mungwe pena ngo vakakaripa chabo peza ndo ziponya mungwe so ifunika Ngwenya vatikire ko fence.
Lusaka Water and Storage Company Managing Director Jonathan Kampata says his company is committed to providing proper sanitation and water supply.
Lusaka Water and Storage Company places high priority on the expansion of safe and adequate water supply and sanitation services because access to clean and safe water and good sanitation is key for improved well-being and acceleration of social and economic benefits. In doing so, we as a company are guided by our mission, which is, and I quote, to provide quality water and sanitation services at commercially and environmentally sustainable levels.
An area member of Parliament, Lawrence Ichalwe, has cautioned the resident to stop vandalizing the newly built infrastructure.
To the people of Mrs., I would urge you, or I would amplify on what the drama group emphasized, for you to guard this project jealously against the vandals. Indeed, this project should have been completed way back, but it had to be delayed because of some vandals who were busy vandalizing the construction of this project.
Minister of Water Development and Environmental Protection, Lloyd Kazia, says quality water and sanitation is key to economic development.
At this point in time, I wish to remind our people that there is need for behavioral change as a key to promotion of good sanitation and hygiene practices, as well as fostering ownership of water and sanitation infrastructure.
This is Ngwenya Dam, a dam that is used by Mississippi residents to hold their water for their daily use. This dam came about due to stone quarrying. Phiri-Banda, Damo News.
As Mopani Copper Mines threatens to cut 4,700 jobs because of reduced electricity supply, the Copperbelt Energy Corporation has accused the mining firm of rejecting all possible solutions to the impasse. CEC Senior Manager for Corporate Communication, Chairman Sabika, says his firm has even offered Mopani alternative sources in the interim as a way of meeting its full requirements of power while the parties work to resolve the current impasse, but this has been rejected. Ms. Sabika says CEC has been left with no other option through which it can help Mopani without any constructive engagement from their side. But Mopani Copper Mines PLC has accused the Copperbelt Energy Corporation of breaking the power supply agreement, which provides for both parties to agree on the tariff revision. Mopani Copper Mines Public Relations Manager Norbert Mulenga says the mining firm is ready to negotiate as provided for by the power supply agreement. Mopani has since written to the Ministry of Labour informing government about its intention to retrench 4,700 employees following the restriction of power. Labour Minister Joyce Nondesimkoko has confirmed receiving a letter from Mopani about the mine's intention to retrench the workers. A lifelong sentence prisoner has asked government to look into the plight of inmates as they are facing a lot of challenges. Thomas Kalambatila said this when the Minister of Home Affairs Stephen Kampyongo and his justice counterpart Given Lubinda toured Lusaka Central Correctional Facility. Kalambatila highlighted a number of challenges faced by inmates, some of them which are delayed delivery of justice, which results in congestion of prisons.
They say not all that glitters is gold, and indeed, looking at these smiling faces, one would think all is well. But the story behind these happy faces is sad. These 1,394 inmates spend their daily lives in a facility which was meant for 250 inmates. The facility has 16 male cells in which a total of 106 inmates share a room. The Ministers of Home Affairs, Stephen Kampyongo and his justice counterpart, Given Lubinda, took time to visit the correctional facility to see the challenges faced by the inmates and how best government can resolve them. In company of government officials, the magistrates, lawyers, European Union representatives visited the TB clinic, the workshop and the toilet. The last to be visited before having a chat with the inmates was the kitchen, whose welcoming part were flies. And this inmates representative, Thomas Kalambatila, who is currently serving a life sentence, has asked government to intervene in the challenges faced by the inmates.
So many challenges that we feel we can raise so that they can be taken by the Minister of Justice, the Minister of Home Affairs, and all members that have been involved in the entourage. And we feel we as prisoners that has contributed to this overcongestion that we are seeing, and maybe the other late cases in court. We have got so many people that have been that have stayed in prison as remandees.
And Mr. Kampyongo has assured the inmates that government will look into their plight.
Even you colleagues, you know that. So, if we go to as the government, the Home Affairs, that one of the chifungo chakuremiaka iya kuruma nishitakuwa we know that this facility was built during the colonial era before we were emancipated from the colonialists. Desubira mulatambako mulabonkeri ashimwa muchalo. Uteko wakwamba vyokwisula echifungo chipya nifwe. The current affairs. This is the regime that has opened a new facility. Na chino chine chifungo tulechitowaula tupange pwechipange chifungo chipya kunchende yalondoloka. And we are going to put down this facility and we are going to erect a prison at a conducive place. Bantu mana kumulaida tina mutembenuka mukafuma muno imilandu ya kapawa ntwechibale pange imilandu.
Gwendolyn Muchenga, Diamond News.
As Zambia sets course on a path to economic recovery, various policies are being implemented because policy is what determines the economic muscle of a country and dictates the pace of development. Join me, Wenson Mavoro, on Bizweek every Friday at 17:30 hours as I'll be engaging and challenging policy and decision makers only on Diamond TV.
In your sports, Fad Super League side, City of Lusaka Football Club have parted ways with coaches Hector Chilombo and Davy Musole. The decision comes after a continued poor run of results since the appointment of the two trainers in May. City are winless under Chilombo since he joined the club on May 31st after the sacking of Elijah Chikwanda. Now Chilombo, who has coached Power Dynamos, Napsa Stars, Forest Rangers, Indeni and Red Arrows, has signed a 6-month performance-based contract with the Woodlands Stadium-based side. The club has only picked 2 victories from the 24 games played so far this season. The club has since thanked Chilombo and Musole for their services. Meanwhile, Italian coaches Roberto Landi and Pepe Marca, who were engaged earlier this month, will remain in charge of the team as it fights to avoid relegation. Let's now have a look at some of the stories that had a high media presence on our Facebook page. All right, so here are some of the stories that had a high media reach on our Facebook page as compiled by our social media specialist Ntamanyile Silwamba. The story on Wetsen Urenda and naming the under 20 stars for Algeria clash. This one got over 4,202 people engaging in it, and some of the comments say, we wait for the final selection, otherwise good move. Brian Nkosi says, good squad, well done Urenda. And then Chilufia Walia says, I think it's a good combination. We'll see on the 2nd of Matthews Abiard Urenda says, I'm happy Bakalaba won't be captaining. Ever since he became captain, the team has been underperforming. All right, those are some of the comments from our social media page. Remember that you can also engage with us. Send us those comments, contributions each time we make our post. So we did make a post on the story where Lusaka Police told Pastor Kangwachileshe that his 14-hour prayer meeting at the Cathedral of the Holy Cross for the release of HH was cancelled. Now, this story got 17,747 people reached, and people actually commented. That one saying, Wetsen Mulenga says, respect men of God. They are answerable to the one who called them. Remember, Aaron and Miriam, they despised Moses. And K. Mukumbuta says, even prayers need permission or protection from the Zambia police, but Zambia. Then Joseph Kosana Jerry says, what is currently happening in Zambia is unchristian and undemocratic. Those are some of the comments that came from that story. Keep interacting with us on our Facebook page at Diamond TV Zambia. Thank you so much for watching. Stay blessed.